Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. Alright guys, I am really pumped about this video. I have just received the Eduard Tempest Mk.V Series 1 in 1/48 scale. This is the Eduard Weekend Edition kit, and it is Eduard part number 84195. This model kit by Eduard was released in 2023, and it immediately became the definitive Tempest Mk.V model kit in 1/48 scale. In this kit review video, I'll give a brief history of the Tempest Mk.V Series 1. We'll take a look at what comes in the box with this kit. We'll go through the kit instructions, and we'll talk about any problem areas to watch out for during construction. We'll also take a look at the small parts in the kit, and we'll talk about the detailing on the landing gear and the interior of the kit. We'll take a look at the surface detail on the exterior of the kit. We'll also take a look at the fit of the major parts. We'll go through the color and marking guides for this kit and talk about the available options for markings. We'll also look at the decals themselves, and we'll talk about the quality of those. Looking at the history of the Tempest Mk.V, the Tempest was an evolution of the earlier Typhoon fighters. The Mk.V Tempest carried over the same 24-cylinder H configuration engine of the Typhoon, but it had a much more efficient elliptical wing, and this allowed the Tempest to be among the fastest piston engine fighters at lower levels. Because of its incredible speed, the Tempest wing was tasked to fight the V1 flying bombs that Germany was launching against Britain at that time, and the Tempest destroyed over 640 V1s during the short period between June and August of 1944. Tempest also claimed 20 of the Me-262 jets. Looking at what comes in the box, there are 5 sprues of gray plastic parts and 1 sprue of clear parts, in addition to a decal sheet and a small set of adhesive fish plates for the rear fuselage on this kit. The parts that are marked in blue in this photograph are going to be unused parts, so you'll have some nice extras to use on other kits if you choose to do so. Looking at the kit instructions, in step A, we are building the pilot seat, and we're installing the decal lap belts for the seat. I've used the Eduard decals for the seat belts previously on my BF 109 review, and those turned out really nicely, so I'm hoping that these turn out just as nice. In step B, we are building the rudder pedal assembly. The detail on these parts looks to be excellent. In step C, we are continuing to build the interior of the kit. I don't anticipate any problems with this step of construction, but you do want to be familiar with handling some small, fine parts. The detail on all of these parts is very nice, and if you take your time during construction, I don't see any real construction issues on the interior. Next up, we are building the instrument panel. The engraving on these parts looks really nice, and I think these should look excellent once you add the decals and really detail these out. In steps E and F, we are building the side consoles and the side structure of the interior. The detail on these parts looks to be very nice, and I think these will look great with just a little bit of seam cleanup. In step G, we're building the compass. And in step H, we are continuing with the assembly of the interior. We're adding a side console and the instrument panel in this step. Moving on, step I focuses on the assembly of the radiator unit, and step J covers the tail wheel housing. This diagram just shows the correct orientation of the radiator parts. There are a couple of steps where we're adding detail parts to the interior on the fuselage sides. Even though these seem to be shown after the fuselage is closed up, I think these parts would be much easier to add prior to closing up the fuselage halves. In this step, we're closing up the fuselage halves around the radiator, around the interior, and around the tail wheel housing. Holding the fuselage sides together, the fit here looks to be superb. You can see the underside fuselage join. You can also see the join at the radiator in this photograph. And here you can see the seam along the nose of the aircraft. Although the fit of the fuselage halves to one another looks great, I did notice 2 minor mold glitches on my example. The first one is on the upper side of the wing fillet on the port side of the fuselage. The next sink mark is on the underside of the starboard wing fillet. Thankfully, both of these can be corrected by filling them with just a little bit of putty and a little bit of sanding. Next up, we have a series of steps that focuses on adding wheel well detail to the upper wing halves. I highly suggest taking your time through these steps and cleaning up the parts thoroughly and dry fitting them before you assemble them, but I don't anticipate any issues in this step of construction. This should result in very nicely detailed wheel wells. Once the wheel wells have been added to the upper wing halves, we are joining those with the lower wing section. Looking at the fit of these parts, the fit and engineering looks to be excellent. In this step, we're adding the wing assembly to the fuselage assembly. Once again, it looks like we'll be able to get a very good fit between the wing and fuselage assemblies. I may deviate from the instructions by gluing the upper wing halves to the fuselage first before joining the lower wing to that assembly, just to ensure that I get an excellent wing root fit on this aircraft. In this step of construction, we are building the tail assembly. Just setting these parts together, it looks like we'll be able to get an excellent fit on the tail assembly of this aircraft. In this step, we're starting to add some of the final bits to the completed airframe. I was able to set most of these parts on the fuselage in place, and the fit is so precise that they stayed exactly where I placed them. Next up, we're building the tail wheel assembly, and we're adding that to the aircraft. And in this step, we're assembling the main landing gear for the kit. Detail on these small parts is excellent. You just want to take your time with seam cleanup on these parts. I did notice a couple of ejector pin marks on the inside of the main landing gear doors. I think these will be mostly covered by the landing gear legs themselves, and I don't think they'll be visible on the final assembly. Here we're adding the main landing gear to the kit and some fine clear parts as well. And in these steps, the construction of the main landing gear continues. The way this is engineered, I think it will hold the landing gear precisely in place, and I don't anticipate any problems with these steps of construction. In this step, we're continuing to add landing gear doors and other small bits to the airframe. And in this step, we're adding the transparencies to the aircraft, along with the exhaust and the prop, and we're also adding the adhesive fish plates to the rear fuselage if we so desire. Looking at the color and marking guides, there are 6 different marking options that are included in this kit. However, the first 3 marking options are all for Tempest JN751 of Wing Commander Roland P. B-Mount. He was commander of number 150 wing. The 3 different options for his Tempest differ only in minor details. The next option is for Tempest JN738 of number 486 Royal New Zealand Air Force Squadron at RAF Station Castle Camp in Great Britain in April of 1944. The next option is for Tempest JN735 of number 3 Squadron in Newchurch in Great Britain in 1944. The final option is for Tempest JN769 of number 287 Squadron stationed in Gatwick, Great Britain in December of 1944 through January of 1945. I like this last marking option the best, as it really highlights the clean lines of the Tempest. All of the options are for ocean gray and dark green Tempest with a medium sea gray underside. I love that Eduard has chosen to provide a 4-view full color layout for each aircraft. This makes placing the markings and painting the aircraft very intuitive. I also like the fact that Eduard provides a full page layout for all of the stencils that are on the aircraft, and that just makes detailing that aspect of the kit that much easier. Looking at the decals themselves, these look to be of excellent quality. They look to be very comprehensive, and I don't anticipate any issues with these. I'm pretty sure that these are the new style of Eduard decals, and you may be able to peel off the clear coat from these decals once the decals are on the model and dried. I've heard that some modelers have had issues with this style of decals. I'm hoping that I don't experience that. I've also heard that these achieve much better results if they're applied over a gloss acrylic clear coat instead of a gloss lacquer clear coat. I usually do that anyways, We'll see how these turn out, and I'll report back once I put these on the kit. Looking at the clear parts, these parts are crystal clear. They are extremely well molded, and they're very well detailed. These are up to the excellent standards of the rest of the kit. Looking at the surface detailing on the exterior of the kit, this is just absolutely world class. This kit has a mix of engraved rivet detail and engraved panel line detail. It also has some very fine raised rivets where appropriate, and those are mainly found on the rear fuselage. You can see that in these photos. Additionally, the fit and engineering of this kit overall is extremely precise, and I think this model is just going to turn out beautifully. I was able to fit all of these parts together, and I had to use one rubber band, and you can see how precise the fit is with absolutely no glue and almost nothing holding the rest of the kit together. The fit on this kit is just outstanding. Looking at the detail found on the small parts of the aircraft, everything seems to be well engineered and well detailed. Eduard even provides a list of optional parts if you want to dress up your Tempest even further. Well, I think this is one of the best engineered and best detailed model kits that I have seen to date. I think if you take your time on this one, you're almost guaranteed to get a very, very nice model as an end result. I was a little bit surprised by the 2 sinkholes on the wing fillets. Thankfully, these are extremely easy to correct without damaging any of the fine detail that's found on the exterior of the kit. I would recommend this kit to modelers who are comfortable handling a few delicate small parts, and I can't wait to have this beautiful kit sitting on my shelf. I think Eduard has delivered another knockout with their Tempest Mk.V. Very well done. All right, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you out there have built the Eduard Tempest Mk.V, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.